Hi everyone, welcome back to AFTV, welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show. Now we've got a rather depressing performance to talk about, but I am happy because it's the first time that Graham and I are back in the studio for what? Probably nearly 2 months, because it was back in early December breaking down the Southampton win. 3-0 win. We obviously had to do a lot of stuff because of COVID and isolation back at home, but we're back. How you doing, Graham?
All right, mate. I've seen as little of you as Tottenham have seen of trophies. I know we've done a few streams.
He can't help it.
We've done a few streams, James, but I haven't seen you in the studio now for well over a month, so it's nice to see you again. Back talking about the Burnley game. I was going to go to the Burnley game, actually, until it got moved to the Sunday. Because of Liverpool.
Thank you, Liverpool.
Thank you, Liverpool LFC, the lateral flow champions. But you know,
I've never heard that.
You never heard that one?
Oh, this is such a boring game to analyse. Thank you so much for putting a smile on my face. I'd never heard lateral flow champions. Fair play.
But
well done.
Can I just say before we start, though, that this is the first time that Arsenal have dropped points at home against a bottom of the league team since 2008. Who do you think that bottom of the league team was?
No, I think I saw this come up. Who was it? I think I saw. I can't.
Tottenham.
Was it Tottenham
Hotspur? Yeah, they were bottom of the league in October 2008 when they got that 4-4 draw. And just quickly before we go into
the 4 was that the
4?
Yeah.
The 4. What's the connection, James, between that game and this game? Who was playing in both games? Do you think?
Aaron Lennon.
Wow. Unfortunately for us, he scored the 4th goal in stoppage time when they got their 4 draw. So
was it Lennon? I thought it was Genus.
Well, he was in the game. I think Lennon got the equaliser.
I mean, that was a dark day. I remember it very well.
So was yesterday.
This was maybe not equally as dark, but pretty bad. We've got a lot to go into because Arsenal had the opportunity to be sitting 4th right now, and could have enjoyed that for a good 18 days, and we don't. We blew it, and there were circumstances to consider, and we're going to talk about all that. But generally, it felt like Arsenal, made their own errors throughout. And we're going to break that all down. Let's talk about the pre-match context. We always like to look at, what the situation was going into this. We know that we had a thin squad anyway, with El Neni at AFCON, Partey and Xhaka, because of their red cards, mean that we didn't have any of those three available to play in central midfield. Meant a tweak to the system with Odegaard, Lokonga, Smith Rowe, having to come up with a midfield 3. But you rightly pointed out the bench to me. I've got the list here. Alabiosu, Patino, Salah Adine, Hutchinson and Biereth on the bench. All great talents that we're super excited for. But very soon to be having them all on the bench and hoping that they could play a part in the match. Of course they didn't. Arteta made the one sub.
Just one thing, James, I'll come in, sorry to interrupt there. 5 of those players hadn't made an appearance in the Premier League.
Yeah. And
4 of them hadn't made a senior appearance. So it was a very thin bench. Mm-hmm. Who could you bring on off that bench to change the game? Mm-hmm. Very few options for him yesterday, James. Yeah,
Eddie Nketiah is the one he went for.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the things that Arteta could have done in this game to affect it, despite the thin squad, but we'll get to that. Let's start with the match stats and have a little look at where Arsenal, what the numbers say. 20 shots to Burnley's 10. I'll be honest, I don't remember Burnley having 10. They had a few moments. Ramsdale had to, make a save from a deflected effort. Dwight McNeil, I think, had a couple efforts on goal, but generally you can see the one on target. Arsenal were pretty untroubled. The biggest frustration was what we did going forward.
Yeah, it was. I think the way we set up James in a 4-1-4-1. Burnley came in a 4-4-2. We knew they were going to play that way. And I think Arteta expected us to really have a lot of the ball, and we could be expansive against a low block team who were literally going to camp with 2 banks of 4. So he went for the central 3 midfield option, I think, to try and play around their 2 in midfield. 4 at the back, obviously moving White to right back, I think slightly disrupted the team because we lose what he offers playing out from the back. Holding isn't a great passer. Mm-hmm. And asking Lokonga to play as a single pivot, where he's not, I think, that great as a single pivot. He's good in a 2. Odegaard and Smith Rowe, 2 shuttlers, to hopefully for Lokonga to find between the lines, and then Lacazette coming short and build up, and then you've got Martinelli and Saka, who's looking to release in behind. That was, I think, the plan, the way he wanted to build up.
And this is the thing. So when the 11s come out, we're thinking it's a 4-2-3-1, which we didn't really speak too much after the Liverpool game. But it did feel like Smith Rowe was closer to Lacazette, and it was more of a base two of Odegaard, Lokonga. And you're absolutely right. Then at this game, it was more of a 4-3-3. Something I actually wanted Arteta to do was to basically try and get Smith Rowe, Odegaard either side of Lokonga, three very inexperienced young players, and you're hoping that at least with the three of them, they might all kind of be able to look after themselves or look after each other a little better. But it did feel like Lokonga was at times isolated, playing as the lone six. It kind of looked more 4-3-3, 4-1, 4-1 or whatever. But the shape was interesting to you.
I thought it was a 4-5-1, and it became like a 2-3-5 in build-up, occasionally a 2-2-6. So what you had, I think, if you'll show on the tactical pad there, you had White and Gabriel's a 2. I thought, Holding and Gabriel's a 2. White more inverted on the right side with Tierney inverted as well. And Lokonga, whose job it was really to find the forward shuttlers in Smith Rowe and Odegaard, who were forming these front lanes of 5. So the front lanes of 5 there, you had Saka on the right, you had Odegaard next to him on the right hand side, Lacazette in the middle, Smith Rowe and Martinelli. And occasionally it was a 2-2-6 when Tierney went high, as you're going to show there. So that was, I thought, what he wanted to do in build up. It was a 2-3-5 or a 2-2-6. And the idea, really, what you need for that system to work is Lokonga is pivotal to that. In the way he has to receive the ball and either feed it into Smith Rowe and Odegaard between the lines, or he has to break the press and draw out their first bank of 4 to disrupt them, so they can't sit in 2 banks of 4. The problem I thought yesterday was, James, Lokonga struggled to do that. Maybe lack of experience, but I thought what Burnley did really well was they had 2 strikers in that 2, Rodriguez and Vidra up front, who basically one of them would sort of like press on to Lokonga, the other would press on to one of our centre halves and block the pass going into Lokonga. Lokonga wasn't quite subtle enough or cute enough to find positions where he could receive the ball away from that to affect the play. What this meant, in fact, I thought, was Smith Rowe and Odegaard was struggling to make an impression for long periods in that first half. So they were having to come deeper to receive the ball, to influence the play, as good as Odegaard was in that first half. I think that's what was happening. But we never had the 3v2 in midfield against Westwood and Brownhills, I think, which is what Arteta envisaged. So as a result, Lacazette was having to drop in to make that third player in the midfield alongside Smith and Odegaard to create the overloads around their midfield too, which is what he tried to do to influence our build-up play. The problem with that is, of course, is the moment we get it out wide to our wide players, Saka and Martinelli, and we were playing diagonals out to them, try and isolate them one-on-one with their fullbacks. Because Lacazette was in the midfield, that meant that the 2 centre-halves were able to come out, double up on our wide players, and we had nobody in the box. So I thought Burnley stopped us from building up from deep because they stopped Lokonga from being, I think, what Arteta wanted him to be. Lacazette was having to drop in, and although we did create 1 or 2 good openings, which we didn't take, overall I thought Burnley stopped us from dictating the play. We were able to keep 2 banks of 4 for most of that first half.
You are right, we were trying to switch the play a lot. I did notice that we were almost trying to suck them to one side and then look for the overlap so we could get Saka one-on-one. I mean, on the one hand, it's a tactic I see City deploy a lot, where you see Mahrez takes that wonderful first touch and he isolates the fullback. But then there are other moments where I get frustrated because I think we're asking so much of Saka here. We're asking him to beat 2 or 3 players and be the player that makes something happen. That's a lot of responsibility on him. There was another tactical tweak, though, that we saw more so in the second half and actually led to our best chance of the game. Just break that down for us, because it very much involved Smith Rowe and we started to see the best of him at this point.
Yeah, I think we had a 15-minute period in that second half, James. We thought it looked like we might win the game. We built up some head of steam. I thought it was a slight tactical tweak from Arteta. What he did, I think he asked Martinelli and Tierney to sort of hold the lines more. So you moved Tierney out there. Martinelli was more up there with him. What the advantage of that is, it draws out two players who were marking them. So the fullback, Roberts, I think it was, who had a really good game actually, he comes out to mark Martinelli. Lennon drops across onto Tierney. What that does then, it frees up space in behind for Smith Rowe to make a run in behind into that gap. So Smith Rowe was pretty, not ineffective, but not so good in the first half at in getting in good positions to influence the play. Suddenly found himself able to run in behind on a few occasions to create two really good openings, including the one big chance for Lacazette, who had two chances in that game. His pass completion rate was only 71%, the lowest in the game for an Arsenal player. But that was the one key moment, the big chance, and it came, I thought, through that tactical tweet of Martinelli holding the touchline more to draw out the fullback to lead the space in behind for Smith Rowe to run into.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about Lacazette's struggles. I mean, we've also talked about how he's been quite a good leader since he's kind of taken the armband, and he leads the line with he's got that, he's quite streetwise, isn't he? He wins a lot of fouls and he works really hard up the pitch. But there's always been one criticism of Lacazette, is that he does tend to miss those chances. He gets so frustrated about, and he's not. There is a lack of goal-scoring threat sometimes, and these numbers show it. I mean, 3 goals in the last 17, in his last 17 Premier League appearances, I believe. 34 crosses into the box, and only 3 of them were met by an Arsenal player, which is why I asked the question. You know, we talk about Lacazette, we don't really ever see him like busting it up to get into the box, and it's almost like he's. I know he loves scoring goals, and I can't question that, but you know, it makes you wonder, you know, does he want to score as much as other strikers sometimes? You're thinking, are you desperate to get into the area? And it kind of, I guess my question is, what does that say? 34 crosses, 3 met by an Arsenal player. Is that a problem with the approach, or is the approach fine? We just need a striker that's going to be better at getting on the end of those.
Oh, it's a problem of the approach against Burnley, because that's bread and butter for Burnley. Floated high crosses for me and his central defender colleague. Tarkowski, yeah. So that was food and drink to them all day. You float crosses in, they're going to head it out. I thought that maybe when we got into those areas, we needed to have a different approach. Obviously, Lacazette, you're asking him to drop into midfield to create the overload to field the play out and to come deep. He's 31, is he?
Something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, he's not going to. He's struggling to play 90 minutes long. He's not going to keep getting into the box, and when he arrives in the box, he's made that run, and you know, I think sometimes you're asking a lot of him to sort of drop deep and then be on the end of chances. Whereas if you have a totally different forward, Vlahovic, for example, I know it's ironic for me that the 2 players we've been linked with in this transfer were in Arthur Melo and Vlahovic. If they'd been on the pitch yesterday, they would have won that game comfortably.
Yeah, I know.
Melo
I know. You could see immediately where they'd have had an impact.
Melo would have been brilliant at sort of like playing that role. Even Partey, I think back to early in the season when we played Burnley at their ground, what we didn't do yesterday was the 2 centre-halves would split and Partey would come into the middle to receive the ball on either side. He could go either side, and whereas their 2 forwards would be having to press on to our 2 centre-halves in the box, he was picking the ball up centrally and driving past, bringing their midfielders out of shape. We didn't have that yesterday. So, but back to your main point is that I think when we got into those areas, I wanted to see us more trying to commit their defenders in the box instead of or driving in more lower crosses, which when we did it yesterday, it did create a couple of good opportunities. Smith Rowe had that one chance from a well-worked, obviously coached corner where he had the shot well saved by Pope. Well, I'd say Pope was excellent yesterday, but I thought Burnley defended really well, but we gave them a chance to defend very well with the way we played it. I think a different approach around the penalty box, floating high crosses into the box from set plays and from corners is food and drink to those 2 centre-halves.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, we've talked about Arsenal's discipline problems. Cecil actually did a great Ask the Fans where he basically asked the question, is there a discipline problem at Arsenal? Now, we know we didn't get a player sent off yesterday, so people are probably wondering why we're talking about this.
Why did we get a player sent off yesterday?
Sorry?
How come we didn't get a player sent off yesterday?
What do you mean?
Well, it's almost like every week now we're getting a player.
Oh, right, sorry.
Just a tongue-in-cheek comment there, really, James. Because I think that, you know, over the last few weeks I've seen, you know, I'll say this now, I'll do a League Judges, I'll say this now.
That's a good impression.
I've watched Mane elbow a defender the other week and not get sent off. I've watched Mason Mount kick out a defender and not get sent off. I've watched Harry Kane go in over the top and Robinson not get sent off. I've watched Partey commit 2 offences and get sent off, for which we're going to show Westwood yesterday committed 2 offences. Both of them, for me, red card. Not get sent off. So we've got discipline problems. But one of the reasons why some clubs haven't got discipline problems is the referees don't apply the same rules. That's what it seems. It seems like at times. Just look at. You're going to show a graphic now, James.
Yeah, we've got it here. We come to you with fact. Well, Graham definitely does anyway, because he's put together this, and I couldn't believe it. Talk us through this.
Well, it just shows you the difference between us and Burnley. The amount of games we played to the amount of games Burnley have played. The amount of fouls. More. Look at the fouls. The game's very similar. The fouls, and look at the red card difference. And Burnley are a physical team, aren't they?
14 red cards to Burnley 0.
That's since their last red card in January 2009.
Or can we credit Burnley and say that they're much smarter with it? And yesterday they should have had a man sent off. Absolutely.
James, how was that smart yesterday from Westwood? Tell me, explain to me how that was smart. Westwood, first of all, over the top tackle on Tierney.
Yeah, that's a red. I agree.
That's a red. It's not smart, is it?
And, no, it's not
when he
smart,
when he elbows Gabriel, the second instant, is that a red in your opinion?
I think it's a second yellow at least.
If it was an Arsenal player, would he be sent off?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So, but my point is, when I say smart, over pretty much the same amount of fouls. I just wonder if this is since January 2019, whether they're just a bit clever, a bit. Yesterday the red card should have been given. I agree. I just wonder whether maybe they're a bit more subtle, whether maybe Arsenal can learn from it. Man City are the same. Rodri got away with murder against them.
I don't watch Burnley games, so I can't comment. All I can comment on is what I see. Yeah. And I see us picking up red cards deservedly. Yes, we got a discipline problem. Our players go beyond the law and are punished. I don't see the same punishment handed out to other players from other clubs. And I've just pointed out 3 examples of you there, and an example of it yesterday. Now, I'm not saying we would have won that game against Burnley yesterday had they been down to 10. I don't think it would have changed the dynamics of the game very much. But what I expect to see is consistency, James. And I just don't see it week in, week out from these referees in the Premier League and from VAR.
Fair enough. Let us know in the comment section why you think the reason is, because something's not right in those numbers. I want to talk about Arteta's lack of adventure. That's what I'm kind of titling this section of the show. And the reason I say that is because all I kept hearing yesterday, and they've got a point, we were lacking players in midfield, we were lacking options, look at the bench, who could you bring on? We need to sign players. Sure, that's all valid. I absolutely agree. But I still think, and I can't with 5, because 5 is always that magic number you want to get to, but I think they're legitimate ones. 5 things Arteta could have done yesterday just to try and mix things up and ask a different question of Burnley. Now, I'm not saying if you do these 5 things, they're going to work, or even one's going to work, and suddenly we're going to win the game. But I always get frustrated when over a 90-minute match, you don't ask different questions of the opposition. You try the same things, balls into the box, the same formation. And you tried one thing, to be fair, brought in Nketiah, and he went more 4-4-2. Fair enough. That is one thing he tried. But I'm looking at 1 in 90 minutes of football. Were you going to jump in there?
I'm going to jump in and say I didn't think Nketiah played any different yesterday. I think he seemed to be in the Smith Rowe role.
Okay, yeah,
and that was a strange substitution. Other than the fact that Smith Rowe might have been lacking in fitness, so I thought Nketiah made the same sort of run that Smith Rowe made when he got into that.
Yeah, he did well.
So I thought he was more or less playing the Smith Rowe.
Fair enough.
I don't think Arteta changed. The point you make generally is a good one. I don't think Arteta is flexible with his tactics. It's too light for light.
Yep, I agree. So here are the 5 things. Firstly, and this is very basic, it goes all the way back to Sunday morning football, kind of on with your mates on the park or Sunday league or whatever it is. Swap wings. You look at Martinelli and Saka, who have been terrific for us this season. What is wrong with just saying, you know what? They started brightly, but they're starting to get found out a little bit. Why not just swap their wings? Especially when they're playing so wide and they're hugging the touchline. Saka, if he gets the beating of Roberts, he's on his favoured left foot to put it into the box. Martinelli too. Why not just ask a different question of Roberts and Peters? Just for the sake of it. See, at one point you can see Saka was starting to tire and Peters had kind of figured him out. Why not ask a different question? That's my first one. My second one is, I know we were playing more of a flat 3 in fairness with Odegaard and Smith Rowe sort of dropping right and left. Why not, to give Lokonga a little bit more help, put Smith Rowe next to him as more of a box-to-box, that Aaron Ramsey role we've seen, and get Odegaard back in that number 10, kind of behind Lacazette, for two reasons. A, it gives Lacazette more help. B, if we bring Saka back to the right wing and Martinelli back to the left, Saka's been playing brilliantly recently with Odegaard almost drifting across to help him. They've had a really good understanding, and it's kind of offset the fact that Tomiyasu and White don't really overlap as fullbacks. So why not just try and get Odegaard back? And he sets the tone for the press, by the way. Try and get Odegaard back into that number 10 role, and Smith Rowe can play box to box. He's got the legs, he's got the energy, he's got the intelligence to play it, he's got the drive. That's my second thing. My third thing, as I refer to my notes, go 3-4-3. Why not? Now, if you can see here, I'm going to bring Tavares out because that's actually my fourth point. We had, as everyone drops out the pitch, we had Kieran Tierney as the left back. Let's bring Rob Holding back in there. We had Tierney as the left back, who, as you rightly mentioned, wasn't really getting forward. Why not try and do something that's going to allow him to get forward where he was playing his best football last season, being that outlet to the left? Go 3-4-3, Gabriel to left centre-back, Holding and White. We've seen Bukayo Saka play as a right wing-back, did very well at Stamford Bridge there. Kieran Tierney can go to left wing-back and get forward. But this is my key point. If you then want Odegaard to play alongside Lokonga and play the Xhaka role, get Smith Rowe and Martinelli closer to Lacazette. They're goal scorers. They've shown they got goals in them. Smith Rowe, I think 8 or 9 for the season. Martinelli, we know he's got an eye for goal. Lacazette's struggling. He's dropping into midfield. Why not? Just so that they've got players running and beyond, players closer to them. We're asking more questions of the Burnley centre-backs. That's my third thing. Fourth thing, which I alluded to there with an error, let's take Tierney off and bring Tavares on. Why? Because Tavares is two-footed. He's powerful. He's unpredictable. He's got a lot of flair. Maybe it would have asked a different question of the tired legs of Lennon, who's 35 plus? Roberts, who I think was making his debut, or at least it was one of his first games for Burnley. Again, asked a different question. He's adventurous Tavares. He can come inside, he can go out wide.
That's the point I was going to make. He can come inside on his right foot, or he can drive down the line and bring Roberts out. So yeah, great point.
Absolutely. And then in the dying minutes, if we're going to keep lumping it into the box, which is bread and butter, as he said, for Tarkowski and me, why not? Let's give the ball to Rob Holding. Put Gabriel up front.
Don't give the ball to Rob Holding.
Okay, all right, actually, fair point. Let's give it to Ben White.
Yeah.
You know what? Go for the jugular. Go for it. Put Gabriel up front.
Yeah.
And people are going to think, what? Well, yeah, because I'm talking 2-3 minutes to go. Put it into the box and try and cause them problems.
Yeah. Great point.
Those are 5 things. 5 things he could have done that I don't think are out of this world. I don't think are particularly like, what are you talking about? You know, that could have just asked different questions of Burnley, despite the players we had on the bench, despite the players we had missing. I don't know, and I feel it showed a lack of adventure from Arteta. But maybe he's trying to drum in this style, and he'd rather the players persisted and committed to it. And sometimes it goes wrong, but but they'll get more familiar with it. I don't know. Anyway, should we go off to the round-off stats you sent through? Arsenal have now failed to score in each of their last 4 games across all competitions for the first time since December 2005. It's a bad one, That's a bad one. What are we talking? 16 years? Yeah. Arsenal's 76% possession is the highest share of possession in a Premier League game since August 2017 versus Stoke under Arsene Wenger. Did we win that game? We lost. Yeah, we lost 1-0.
Yeah, it was at their ground, yeah.
Yeah, Hesse scored. Oh, that's depressing. Arsenal managed just 1 shot in the last 20 minutes plus injury time. I mean, that is depressing. You really need a goal, and that's what we're putting up. There have now been just 4 goals scored in the last 5 meetings between Arsenal and Burnley.
It's pretty much...
That's not great.
Not a great watch, is it?
He struggled against Burnley. I think his first game against Burnley, he drew 0-0 at Turf Moor. He's drawn 1-1 at Turf Moor and beat them 1-1. And then lost 1-0, yeah. He struggles against Burnley. Arsenal finished January with more red cards in the month than goals. Just the less said, the better. Arsenal stay marooned on 599 goals scored at the Emirates Stadium after a blank in this game. And Arsenal now failed to score in the last 6 hours and 59 minutes of football in all competitions.
Need a striker, James.
We need a striker, we need a midfield, we need a lot, and there's a chance, despite everything, we got games in hand on West Ham United who are above us. Win those, we go into 4th. We know Spurs have a game in hand on us, but they've got a lot of tough places to go to. So this is still so salvageable. Top 4 is not done, absolutely it's not, but we have to do something in January. Let me ask you, and I'm going to ask, this is a big question that we're going to ask in the comment section, where were the points lost today? I'm going to give you 4 options. Was it the lack of business done in the transfer window and the loaning out of Maitland-Niles? Was it the Xhaka and Partey red cards? Fundamentally, if we had them, we probably would have won the game. Is it Arteta's overcoaching and lack of adventure, as I said? Or is it just poor finishing? You know, that chance in the first half, Odegaard and Lacazette had a couple. Lacazette then with the Smith Rowe cutback.
What, you just want me to pick one?
Go on, I'll give you. We know it's a culmination of everything, but what's the main one for you?
I think that, look, I think the loss of that Partey red card against Liverpool is now looking, massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Had he played yesterday, I think he would have given us something that I don't think Lokonga gave us. Sure. And I think we struggled. The two areas of the pitch I looked at, we struggled yesterday was at centre forward and the holding midfielder, the number 6, to play in that system, a single pivot. Now, Partey, I know sometimes struggles. Even he struggled at times in a single pivot.
Yeah.
He's better in the two. But to lose him and Xhaka, I think back to that Eddie interview, at the start of the season when he said we're going with Xhaka and Partey for the season. They weren't going to sell Xhaka, kept him. They're going to be our two main midfielders. We're not going to sign another midfielder. The arrogance of that statement, to think they could just bring in a young Lokonga and to play backup. That's what they said. We do not want to disturb that partnership. And I look at all the other top teams like Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool. They've all got lots of midfield options in centre mid when they lose players. We haven't got that, and it's hurting us. So I think that yesterday, as much as a striker, not doing that business. And the other thing I'll say is, if you're going to sort of like ditch your ties with Aubameyang, have something lined up as a replacement, and we haven't got that. And they're the two areas for me that are really hurting us. But all those things that you said, everyone's going to have their own views on it. AFCON we didn't plan well for. The red cards, the disciplines hurt us. Everything's been going wrong. It's been a horrendous month. I can't remember a month like this. November used to be our poor month. January is the new November.
Yeah, agreed. Guys, those are the 4 options. Thank you very much for joining me, Graham.
Pleasure, mate.
Broken it down there where we think it went wrong, but also where it could have gone right, maybe. It didn't. It's dropped points. We are sick. The top 4 race is still on, but a big January and 18 days till our next game. Do like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. More content coming out this week. Despite no games, we've still got a lot to talk about when it comes to Arsenal and the end of this transfer window. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.